I'm about to talk to a cloud beginner who was able to secure not one, not two, but 3 job offers. Find out how he was able to follow the Cloud Career Mentor program to build up his technical skills, which allowed him to receive multiple job offers. Some of what we discussed today include what projects he built to improve his technical skills, the unconventional strategy he used to apply for jobs, and the interview techniques he used to impress hiring managers. If you've ever heard that there are no cloud jobs available or that it's impossible to break into the cloud industry, I want you to use this episode as an inspiration and motivation, because I think that if you build the right skills and make the right decisions, then you'll be able to break into the cloud industry too. After all, if he was able to get 3 job offers, then I'm sure you can get at least 1. Also, if you want to follow the same program that he used to break into the cloud industry, you can sign up at cloudcareermentor.com, where you too could easily build the skills that employers are looking for. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Hello, Israel. Welcome to the show. I'm really excited for you to share your experience with people looking to get into the cloud industry. Can you start by just letting me know, what your current job title is and what sort of tasks you perform on a day-to-day basis?
All right. Hi, Firemi. It's nice to be here with you. So currently, I work as a cloud security engineer and on AWS and Azure. And part of my responsibility, I work with several teams, within the department, and then our client to actually help improve their security posture, proactively setting up a monitoring and then intrusion detection system, So we have same system like Logarithm and then Qualys in place, which I was part of the team that helped implement the system, put them in place to be able to get real life view of the threats and then an event within our cloud space. Also, part of my responsibility, I work, like I said, with several teams, in their day-to-day activity in project management, establishing best practices and seeing how system being developed and application being developed, how we can ensure more security for those apps. And so I think at the top level, that's kind of a brief about my responsibility with the company.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I mean, I'm so amazed because you're able to get 3 job offers when you started applying for jobs, but we'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to find out what made you decide to learn cloud in the first place. Was it more money, more freedom? What were your motivations to learn cloud skills?
Yeah, I would say 2 motivations. I was looking at the future and wondering what's the future. Currently, as at the time I started, that was during the COVID. I work as a IT support, and so that means I do much of level 1 support and then level 2 support. So during the COVID period, I decided to think about my future and then look at the other motivation is money. Look at what could really get me more. And as part of the things I look at project management, data analysis, and look at cloud. And I remembered I did cloud during my final year project, and I was motivated. And then I met you during that time when I was still on LinkedIn. I think I sent a couple of emails to a lot of people, and then you were one of the people that responded to the mail. And from there, moving on.
No, that's great to hear. And yeah, cloud is just becoming more and more relevant, especially people who work in IT or even those who have no technical experience. And so, you went through the program. Like I mentioned earlier, you were able to get, multiple job offers. And, I remember when you went through the program, you were very active. You engaged with all the materials. And I think that's why you were able to be successful.
Yeah.
And the question I have is, what are some of the important things you learned in the Cloud Career Accelerator program that you felt allowed you to be successful?
Okay. Yeah. So the hands-on approach to the learning on the career mentorship side is something that really aided my learning. And then because as we know, it's beyond just being certified, doing certification. So the course is beyond just you preparing for any exam. It's actually making you ready for the job market. And all the modules are important, but some of the ones I found very important, that very applicable to me that time that I put more effort to, were the hands-on, where we had to the automation side of it, where we had to develop Terraform, make use of Moodle, make it more repeatable, and then Linux and Bash scripting in depth, having in depth look at all those automation too. And then the CI/CD project, there are things I kept, dipping into, going back and forth, asking questions, helping other people in the community that had similar issue, and the more I do that, I think I was able to get more experience, real life experience. There are many times I was stuck troubleshooting, which I discovered is actually the real deal, right? Deploying stuff can be very easy, right? It could be fun, but then where the real job starts is, well, something breaks down. How do you get it back up? How do you fix it with record time? Not just getting it done after 1 month. So those are the things I learned during the program. The approach to getting troubleshooting, and then the scripting, automation, because like I realized when I got to the market is automation is very key when you work in the cloud. You have to automate a lot of things. You can't do them manually. So those are my key takeaway from the program.
Yeah, I think you've hit on two very important points there. And this is what I sort of stress to the students already in the program, and even just cloud beginners in general, is that there's two things you're getting paid for when you get a cloud job. The first is your troubleshooting skills. And this only comes from doing hands-on projects. So when you put yourself in situations where you've had to troubleshoot before, that's what builds those muscles. So when you actually get into the world of work, you're going to need to know how to troubleshoot. So that's very important.
Yeah.
And another thing you touched on was, the ability to automate and script. A lot of cloud roles are centered around automation. So be that using Terraform to deploy infrastructure or using CI/CD to deploy applications. And so these are some of the things we cover in the program as well. But, like everyone. So I remember when you went through the program, it was really good. And again, I always try to be realistic in these conversations because, some people, they make it seem like it's super easy to get a job in the cloud. And while I think it's simple, usually I know there's a lot of persistence that's involved. And so I want to talk about when you started applying for jobs, talk us through how that went, roughly how many jobs did you apply for? How many interviews did you get?
Yeah, it's the cloud market. Yes, the roles are there, the jobs are there. Yeah, but like we've all discovered, the skill shortage is actually the thing. And just like I found out, and so I can't put a number to the number of jobs I've applied to. Even say from January this year, I applied to a lot of roles, both entry level, both mid level, cloud infrastructure, cloud engineer roles. And I think one of the things that really stand out from there is actually understanding what you really want, right? Understanding what the job really require, looking for the key index. I mean, like, what do they want from this role and how does that fit into my skill? Is this something I can learn? So those are the things I usually look at when I apply for roles, looking at where I am currently and does the trajectory for this role also fit into my hand? Going through several platforms, checking, filtering out the roles itself, from say a location, checking it out by the level of experience, and then by the skills required. So I think those are but the market itself is quite interesting because apart from you knowing what to do, know your stuff, it could also not be a reflection of your capabilities, right? Because if your role is up, like I found out, within few hours, there are hundreds of thousands. There are thousands of people already making application to the same role. So it may not really be a full reflection when I get, a lot of time when I get reflection, what I just have to say to myself is, well, that's not a reflection of me. It could just be because the HR couldn't go through the whole application. So that's why it didn't get to me. But then I got a lot of interviews as well. So which really...
Yeah, and just to add to that as well, usually when people go through the program, I always recommend they apply to like at least 30 jobs a week, if not a day, because what I found is getting a cloud job is a bit of a numbers game, right? You have to, the first step is that you have to actually have the skills and experience. You have to have done the projects to be in line for the running, right? But once you've done that, then you need to apply to a lot of jobs, because the more jobs you apply for, the more your chances of securing an interview are. And you follow that really well. Because, I speak to some people and they're like, oh yeah, I applied for like, one job a month, or I've only applied to 3 jobs this month. And I'm like, we need a bit more urgency here. You need to take this seriously. I'm glad you're able to do that and find success in that. And obviously you were successful because you had multiple interviews.
Yeah.
And I know we had some mock interviews just to get you ready for those. So maybe talk about your experience with interviews.
Yeah. So I had to really evolve my interview. The way I did it last year wasn't the same way. It wasn't the same approach I give to every interview. I think one of the first thing I did every time I have an interview is to actually go through the role itself in details, analyze per line what is required for this particular, to be able to perform this particular role if I were to be employed and during the interview. So I usually look at it in 2 ways. How do I answer this during the interview? And do I have the skill that they require for this particular line? So I look at it that way, both for the interview and for when I resume the job. So I'm looking at the interview, taking it a step at a time. I try to analyze all the stuff and then prepare questions, that, go through several questions, have mock interview like the ones we have several times together, right, before my interviews, because interviews can be quite nerve-wracking, how they are, right? So, and another approach I use to actually nail most of my interviews is, it also depends on your mindset, right? Confidence always speaks for you when you are confident in your ability, because these are the things you've done during your own lab session. So it also gives you more confidence if you've done and also when you're speaking, you speak with confidence, right? Make yourself comfortable. Yeah, I know some people may say it's easier said than done, but then it's state of mind. You are going there, you are the one smiling. I'm very sure they won't be frowning. That's what I found out. Right. Another thing I did to really help me was during the interview, many times I have to, for example, when we're talking about Terraform, my experience, they were asking me about what's my experience about that. I don't just want to be talking about, I've done this and that. Anybody could say that. There are many times I will just go straight to the interviewers during the call and say, hey, I've done this and that. If you want me, I can share my screen. I can show you my GitHub repo. You can see my commit. You can see the timestamp there. That's a very good evidence to show them. So I believe if people can really show evidence of during the interview, just tell them, hey, I've done this and this. This is the web application I built. These are the releases I did. I have several pipelines in my, that I've built, and you can show them your portal. You can show them things you've done in your personal console, whether AWS or in Azure. So I believe these are coupled with many other strategies that I use, really, endeared me to the interviewers, because they are so sure that this one is not just saying it. They could really relate with. And there was a particular interview that I did after I done that. The only thing the guy couldn't say was, you are definitely getting this job. From everything is said during that and after, by the time I was done, it was like, I don't have any other question, because all the question he would normally ask, I've already shown him. So it was like, well, I don't have any other question.
Yes. And I think there's 2 points you mentioned there that I want to make sure our listeners catch. So one point is that you're able to show, not just tell. And when you told me this in a previous conversation we had, that hit me, because I'm like, that's genius. So for example, when they ask you about, tell me about your Terraform, you're able to like share your screen, walk them through the Terraform code, and the impact of doing that, of like showing them your work. That's something a lot of people don't do. And then that just takes you to the next level in their eyes. If you can talk them through your CI/CD projects, speak confidently. And that's actually the second point you mentioned that I want to highlight, is how to be confident. And I think confidence comes from preparation. So, for all the students in the Cloud Career Mentor program, once you get an interview, you let me know, and then we get on a mock interview call. And the reason I do that is because if you can have a mock interview with me where we go through the common interview questions and I can provide feedback, once you actually get on the call, because you've already answered those questions, you don't have to think anymore. So you can just respond confidently because you know what to say. Whereas for people who don't practice, when they get a question like, oh, tell me about your CI/CD project, they might not be expecting it because they haven't practiced. And so they start panicking and they start going, and then, the interviewer feels like, yeah, you don't know what's going on.
That's right. And then another thing that is, people push out a lot of CVs. Yes, in the past, there are a lot of things that I can say I've not yet practiced totally, right? We all do that. Well, a lot of people do that in their CV. But I think the most important thing is your ability to defend your CV, to talk through your CV, because there are many interviews, there are different approaches that the interviewers use. Some of them may come through scenarios, the pain scenarios they want you. Some of them may even say they will give you a solution before the interview and they will tell you to prepare an architecture, tell them the approach you will take to implement it. And there are some that they just want to walk you through your CV, and that's the one I find very, like, if I'm the one that developed my CV, I should be able to defend it. I should be able to talk to you through everything because I did everything with my own hand. So I believe if people are able to, and that's one of the things that really work for me. Anytime I go to an interview and they were like trying to walk me through my CV, I'm like, wow, good one. Because I believe they actually made it easy for me, because it's my CV. I did all the projects there. So I believe I will be able to, which are things I learned during the mentorship program, and if you've done it, you can defend it. That's what I believe. And another method is, well, not every interviewer may agree to that, is I record myself. I have my phone, just record myself so that I can go through it. What did they ask me that I know I answered well? What at times you may be so nervous, right? Or so serious about the whole thing that you may not even remember what you said during the interview, how you answer some questions, and taking that to the next interview, you'd probably be asked the same question again. So how about you record it, play it over again, just as a reminder to say, oh, in this area, I didn't answer it quite well. So in the next interview, I must,
That is an amazing tip. And this is something I do as well if I'm interviewing for jobs, where you go through and you, like you say, you realize, okay, they asked me this question, but I feel like my answer wasn't strong enough. So A, you note that down. B, you practice your answers to that question, because with these interviews, they ask similar questions, right? So that question is probably going to come up in another interview. So I love the fact that, you identify, okay, I'm weak here. I need to strengthen this so that when it comes up in the future, boom, I'm ready to go. And it's no surprise. Before I go to that, I just want to walk people through what we've talked about now, because some people think, oh, I need help with my CV. Can someone, review my CV? And I'm like, the CV shouldn't be your priority. Your priority should be getting good projects under your belt. Because if you don't have good projects, like, no matter what someone does to your CV or resume, it's not going to have the meat on the bones, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you've always start with the projects. Make sure you have Terraform projects, CI/CD project, Python projects, AWS, Linux, and then you're able to transfer those projects to your CV or resume. But another benefit of having those projects, like you mentioned, Israel, is that when they actually ask you about them in the interviews, because they will ask you about them in the interviews, you'll be able to speak confidently because you've actually done the work. And I'm always so surprised by how many people they do, like, they put things on their CV they haven't done. And then when I have mock interviews with them, like, it's so easy to tell if someone doesn't know what they're talking about.
Just to buttress the point, many times, in fact, there are two instances where one of the interviewers was so amazed by the fact that I've done that project. I said I've used Sentinels, I've used Qualys, and he was so amazed. He wants me to talk about it because I believe it's a path they wanted to go, right, for in the future. So he just asked me a lot of questions around Sentinel, around Qualys, a lot of all those security vulnerability tools in the cloud. And some of them I answered well, some of them I didn't, right? And then there are other times where they just want to call your bluff. They just want to be sure, right? They just pick out some line item from your CV and just ask you. So if those if you are not really prepared yourself for these are things that it may really call you out to be a charlatan, and nobody really want that in an organization. So really ability to defend it is very important, but then understanding the technology you've already put there, it's not like some interviews, it's not like they'll be going in depth to catch you out. They are not there to catch you out, right? Some of them are many interviewers, and I've seen some that are petty, but but they are not there to catch you out, but there to really help you to show them the reason why they should take you.
Yeah, and just to sort of stay on that point as well, a lot of interviewers, they want you to succeed. They're looking for, they're hiring, they're looking for someone. So they actually want you to succeed. The problem is that a lot of people like lie on their resume, they put technologies, they don't know what they're talking about. And so they have to like validate that you know what you're talking about, because cloud pays well, and so they need to make sure whoever they're hiring is worth the money they're going to pay. So that's why it's so important to do the work first. But let's move on, because I think, so, you apply for jobs, you get some interviews, and then you receive 3 job offers. This is almost unheard of, but I think it will be interesting to think about how you thought through the different offers, because I understand there were all sort of slightly different roles, slightly different salary ranges. So how did you think about each of those offers to make your final decision? It'd be interesting if you could walk through your thought process there.
Yeah. So the roles are different. I got one as a cloud infrastructure engineer. I got another as a cloud security. And then I got another one as a cloud engineer role. So they are all, the specifics in the jobs are different. So, but that wasn't, and the decision to pick which wasn't solely because of the monetary aspect to it. It wasn't based on the salary alone. Yeah, it wasn't really, that wasn't a decider, because I have to look at the location, right? I have to look at my visa status, which of them will be able to, which one of them have more prospects, because none of them are able to offer sponsorship at the time. But
that's good. Could you talk about your visa actually? So what were the requirements? Well, because I think that's such a valid point, because sometimes people come to me, they're like, oh, I need visa sponsorship, or can't get me visa sponsorship. So how did you think about it going in, and how did that affect the decisions you made?
Yeah. Funny enough, all the 3 employers, they're on the sponsorship visa list. And I was, as at the time I got the first 2 offers, that was within the same week. Got one on Wednesday, one on Friday, the offer letter. And one of the conversation I had with them was, will you be able now or later be able to offer? The 2 of them said, no, we're not offering sponsorship. And one of the offers is on a contract role. So that, for me, even though it has 70K difference from the other job offer, it ruled it out for me, because 1 year, even if I apply for a student visa, a postgraduate work visa, which the duration is 2 years, the consideration for me is a long-term thing, because I have to think what happens after the 2 years, right? If this contract is for 1 year, then, they can sponsor definitely. So that rules that one out, because I have to think long time. So, and the thing is, even if I apply for the postgraduate, it will end after 2 years. So that means I have to think of the one that has a prospect. If I do a good job, which I'm very sure I will, they will be able to, change their mind. So those are the things I actually put in mind when I was thinking. Then the location, I have to think about the location, which one will take all the money away. Which one they can, I got one of the offers in Manchester. The other one is, I could say, 80% remote. Okay. 1 day in the office, whereas the other one is like 3 days in the office. And I was like, that means I have to live close by. So Manchester is, the cost of living there. So I thought about a lot of things, and the 3rd offer came a month later. I've done the interview during the same time period, I think February. And when it came, the offer was better than the other 2, and with the prospect, and they also agreed with this visa sponsorship, which was like, even if the money was lower, I still would have taken it, because that's a deal breaker for me, right? It's not just about you offering this visa sponsorship now. But if I know I stand the chance, and you guys have had an history of the people there currently, I spoke with some of my other fellow Nigerians there, and I'm like, if I realize these people can't do it well, I may not be able to. So those are the factors, thinking long term, thinking what works for you, because you have to do what works for you, and thinking beyond the money. Trust me, the money will come over with experience, I mean, with the years, I believe 1 year from now, if I have to move, I'll be getting more, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Take your time.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that you really highlighted the long-term thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they think very short-term. They're like, okay, what pays the most? What gives me this? Rather than thinking of their career or like their life goals more long-term. And I think if you take a long-term view, you're going to be more successful in this industry. So, I mean, but, 3 job offers, it's not in this economy where some people are like, oh, there's no cloud jobs available. There's no cloud jobs available. And you're just hanging out with 3 job offers. And I think that just goes to show that, if you make the right moves, if you put in the work, you learn the projects, if you learn the actual skills employers are looking for, if you write your resume or your CV in a way that attracts the attention of recruiters, and if you learn how to interview in a way that impresses hiring managers, then the world is your oyster. Like, there'll be more opportunities. And I think that's one thing I want to highlight to people who might be thinking, oh, no one's hiring or there's no jobs. There are jobs. You just need to get your skills up to that level.
Yeah.
The final question I have for you is, if someone's listening right now, they want to get in the cloud industry, they've tried different things, it hasn't worked for them, and they're considering joining the Cloud Career Mentor program. They've seen it, they're not sure if they should pull the trigger.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Well, if you are still on the fence right now and I'm a little undecided, so I think one of the first things I would recommend to you is to go through have a look at the course curriculum. Because I believe that's the first thing that will really change your mind. And the fact that you have a one-on-one section with the mentor, who is a highly experienced person, and is a professional, and I believe from personal experience, the times I've known him and then interacted with him, I believe is something that could really benefit anybody. And then the program itself, what I would say to you is that go through the program, look through the course curriculum, look at it, and you discover that they are well structured. The content are they have high quality. So, and these are things that will give you practical, experience, because there are a lot of projects that you do. There are communities where you can ask questions. You see somebody that has an issue that, you can lend in helping hand. And, if you're lending an helping hand, you are doing, right? Some people will post some things that I will just be like, I've never heard about this before. Then I will go online, read about it, and I'll be like, oh, it's something. Then I watch some video, go through some videos. I have a replay on the site, on the career mentorship site, So what I'll say to you is just, if you need something if you have a career that you want to pursue, especially in the cloud, I would recommend you go for this course. And just looking at the content, the course content, I believe is something that will really help you to make up your mind and get off that fence, get off that fence.
Thank you very much, Israel. Good luck with your career.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll talk soon to catch up.
Thank you, man. It's nice being here. Thank you. Thank you for your time.